Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 38 of the new Build Your Stash and Craft. Today we're going to make paper garland. We have Christmas coming up, so this is something that is fun that you could make to hang on your Christmas tree or on your mantles. But also, if you don't do them in Christmas colors, they're just fun to do. I like to hang them on my curtains and, just hang them from, as a dangle from here and there. So I am going to show you how to do this. It's really simple. Now I already cut a bunch of 1-inch squares, and I just took a bunch of my scrap paper and cut it into 1-inch squares. We're going to need some of those. I have way too many here. I wanted different colors. I wasn't really paying attention. I was kind of watching TV while I was doing it. And after I made my first one, I went, wow, I have a lot of squares here. So all you're going to need is 1-inch squares, and I'll show you what we're going to do. And then I've got a little kind of different take on it at the end. But this is what I'm talking about with paper garland. And this is one that I would just hang from a dangle. Like I could hang it from the edge of my curtain. You can hang it from your pulls on your ceiling fans and stuff. No, not to really pull on it, but I hang stuff from my pulls just because I think they're pretty, and then I still pull the chain. But so this is what we're going to work on today. So we've got a little dangle at the bottom. I used the beads that we took off of the lays from the Dollar Tree. But if you didn't get those lays, you got something else, and so you don't have the beads, remember we've made our own paper beads, and they look really nice between these two. And you just need one paper bead between them, and that looks really pretty. And then at the bottom, just for a little extra dangle, I put a heart, so I'll show you how to do that too. And then I'll show you just a little different take at the end. So long as I remember. They're super simple. We are going to use our glue sponge, which I've stored upside down, and I took this out to use it today. We made it quite a while ago, and it is still working great. So if you store it upside down, you wind up with a little glue here. But, that just lets you know that your glue kind of settles to the top of the sponge if you leave it set upside down, and you have a nice, good, tight container for that. So we're going to take 5 little inchy squares, and I kind of like to do, so that one's kind of green and yellow. So then I want to do something that's a little different. So let's go with, well, let's come over here and do one of these. And the only thing is whatever, and we're just going to fold them in half point to point. So we wind up with these little triangles. And whatever you fold to the inside, that's what's going to show. And I also have just a little wet paper towel here so that if I get glue on my fingers, I can wipe it off. So I just like to make sure, and you can do this however you want to. You can do it like in 2 colors. You can do it all in the same tones, however you like. I am doing it by trying to pick. I've got green, red, yellow. I'm going to do a blue one. I just kind of try to just get a different color on each one. So, and then I'm going to do one of these. I'm going to do one of these dark green and blue ones. And because I've got, and I'm folding them corner to corner, but I'm not usually very particular about it because I trim them off at the end anyways. So I'm going to put that green one though right here because I don't want it next to this dark blue one. So now I have 5 triangles that are all folded corner to corner. And then all you're going to do is you are just going to take one side of your triangle and put it in your sponge, get that glue on there, and then just glue it to the next one. The biggest thing is that you want to make sure that you line up your folds. That's the important part. So if they're, like I said, if they're a little bit not folded exactly right or a little off or something, you're okay so long as you've got your folds lined up pretty well. So that one is the blue one. So let's see, the yellow. Okay, I want to put this one on the yellow one because it's darker. I don't want it next to the dark blue one. Just get that glue on there. And, whoops, Then line up your folds. And again, if it's not exact any other way, you're still good. Just so long as your folds are lined up. And you just want to make sure, I like the glue sponge for this. If you have stick glue, yeah, stick glue, that's what they call it. That works too. But I don't believe that we have bought stick glue yet for the series, and this works really well, and it holds really well, and then I don't wind up with stick glue, you know, all over my paper or whatever. So now I've got that done. Now the one thing that you want to do right away, because this does dry nice and fast, is you want to make sure that you separate those out. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and because I know I did 5, 4, I know how many I have to separate, because sometimes they glue together so well, it's hard to tell that they're stuck together. And let's get that one, part 5. Alrighty, so this is where, see, we're lined up pretty good there. And if you can see here, this other one in the back, you can see the back of the white part. You don't need double-sided paper for this because they're being glued together. If you have double-sided paper, that's fine. Just remember that the part that you fold to the inside center is what is going to show. So I'm just going to trim that off like that. It just makes it so much easier instead of stressing over, did I line those up exactly right? I just go in at the end and I just trim them, because that way I know I'm not going to have like that little extra white sticking out or whatever. And it works really well to do that. And like I said, then there's not that stressor of, did you get it straight? Did you, you know, originally when I used to make these, oh, I was so picky about folding them exactly and lining them up exactly. And it worked pretty good, but still once in a great while, you still had to trim them. But it took forever and it was a little bit stressful. So there are my points. And so I just, you know, you can do them in a really long chain of them, or a short chain, whatever you think that you want to, you know, however long you want it for wherever you're going to put it is how you do it. So we're just going to do a couple more. When I hang them from something, I kind of like to do 3. So we'll go ahead and we'll do 3 of them, and then we'll hook them together and see how they look. So we've got the pink one, the blue one, that one, and let's do one of these purple ones. And like I said, these were just scrap papers, and I just trimmed them down to 1-inch squares. And it's okay to have extras, because then someday when you just want something to do, you've already got them cut, and you can use them for other things. You can use them in collage, and actually we're going to use some of them next week. I'll show you something else you can do with them, since I wound up cutting so many. And so we're not going to have a shopping list for next week. And we're also not going to have a shopping list for week after next. So, and then one of the projects I'm working on, I need to make sure I have everything for it. That week we will have a shopping list. But the way it's going, after the end of these 3 weeks, we're going to have a really good amount of money in our savings account, because we really haven't been using any lately. I haven't been making it to town. And, you know, this just goes to show you that, you know, there's always something you can do with what you have. You know, I just kind of had to, because I hadn't gone and purchased anything for the series. I hadn't been to town, and when I was to town, you know, I didn't really have anything figured out and have a shopping list to figure it out. So I just thought, well, you know, I'm going to have to figure out something for the series where we can use what we already have. And so I think these projects that we've got for the next few weeks are fun and things that you can, I think that you will enjoy. So I'm pretty sure there's one there. We've got to have 5. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4. And I'm sure that that other one is here. And really, you probably should, I'm pressing all 5 together and then separating them. You should separate them each time after you get them, the next one pressed. Because I know there's one right here. And the reason I know that is by how thick it is and the fact that this one is peeling off from it, but it has glued itself together. And normally you can find a little gap somewhere, but the only gap, there we go. Found one. Otherwise, if you just couldn't get it apart, you could do one of 2 things. You could have 4, which I don't like 4, I like 5. Or you could have we could have glued another one on there. Because I was peeling that apart, I'm going to glue that back together. Alrighty, so, but we don't glue the last 2, we just glue the 5 of them together and leave the last 2 open, just like that. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, 4, and 5. We got that one, and just do 1 more. Let's see. This is shaving cream paper. This one, we had some extra yellow on, we made an ink pad with the yellowish orange paint. And so I turned that into some dyeing water. We dyed that paper. This one is watercolor paper, and all of these papers we have made in the series. And then we've got, this is just a wipe off paper where I was wiping off my brush as I was going. 4. And then this one is, this was also one of the pads of paper, or the ink pad that we made with the paint pad, I guess I should say. And I just soaked it up on some paper. So all of these are our own homemade papers. And if you have scrapbooking paper or anything like that that you want to use, that works well also. Maybe you'll have a little bit more of a design to it. But you don't have to, and these are really pretty, just with the handmade papers that we made ourselves. And because they're so small, really, you know, the need for scrapbooking paper is really not there because you're not going to see much of the pattern anyways. It would have to be a pretty small pattern in order for it to even, you know, show. It will work just fine if you have it and you want to use it, but it's definitely not something that you need. So we need 1 more on here. And these ones are really folded differently. And even, I think when I was cutting them, I was watching TV. I wasn't paying super close attention. So even at that, they aren't probably very square, even though I really was cutting 1-inch squares. They're just close. I'm just going to trim this down. There we go. They don't have to be exact as far as the others go because they're going to be on the same string, but they're not part of each other, so it's okay that... And you can make these as big as you want. So, you know, sometimes I do them 7. I like an odd number, but you can do however many you want to do. Alrighty, so this is our opening here. So then all we're going to do is we're going to just take a piece of, I'm going to use embroidery floss because I'm just making this to be a dangle. We don't need a whole ton of it. We want to have enough to have a hanger at the top, which is what I usually do first. So I just make a loop, and then I take that loop, and I'm just going to tie a knot right here. Just take the loop and go around the embroidery floss. You want to make sure that you catch that tail. So my tail's not quite long enough. I made it a little longer. Okay, so we're going to take that loop, go over the tail and the long piece, and then come back up through that little circle that we just made. And it's really less fiddly than it looks. But sometimes, you know, your hands just don't want to do what you want them to do. And so you just be patient. You'll get there. Maybe. Okay. We'll just do it one more time. So got the loop. And because it's embroidery floss, you've got all the different threads on all of those pieces, so it's hard to kind of figure out what's what. Well, let's try this one more time. It's really not that hard. I mean, we're just making a knot here. There we go. Okay, so there we go. Now we have a little loop to hang it from. And then I'm just going to cut off the tail. You don't have to do that. You could put a bead on that tail. You could put a little charm on the tail, whatever you want to do with that. And then, oh, I forgot to bring our wire needle out. So I'm going to use a piece of wire that I have here, even though it's not from our stash, because we have wire needles in our stash. Okay, so piece of wire, fold it in half, give it a press. You can use your beading pliers that we got to give it a real good pinch at the bottom so that it's not super thick. There we go. We want that wire to be right where it's folded. We want it to be right next to itself. All right, so there we go. That's our wire needle. So we're going to take that, and through the two open pieces, we're just going to stick our embroidery floss on there, and then we're going to hold those two pieces together and put on a bead. Like I said, if you don't have these kind of beads, if you don't have any beads, a homemade bead looks really pretty on these. Okay, so there's one bead. And then we're going to take this, we're going to find our open spot, which is right there. That's where all of our folds are together. And we're just going to take those two, press them on our glue sponge, and put our embroidery floss right there on top of the fold and press those two together. Just like that. One, two, three, four. One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. I thought that I was short one. So there we go. So that's what we have. That's what it looks like there. So we'll put a bead between the next one. Maybe we'll put 2 beads to give them a little separation. Maybe we'll just do 1 because I didn't cut my string very long. So you can always adjust things. Right there are all of our folds. We're going to take those 2 wings, tap them on our sponge. And just line our thread right up there, our floss, put those 2 together. You just kind of want to make sure that your points line up with your floss. That just makes it look nicer. You don't want it to be too off center or anything. There we go, and we'll do 1 more bead. There we go. All right, now we have all of our beads on there, so I'm going to take the needle off. And we'll put our last one on. There's our folds. So we take these 2. These are just really, really simple to do and fun. And like I said, you can just sit and watch TV and cut your little squares and, you know, just have them ready for when you feel like it. You can also go ahead and make these little bits with the 5s and let them sit open like we had them sitting here, you know, spread apart to dry. But once they're dry, you can fold them flat again for storage. So there we go. Now we've got this dangle, which looks pretty cool. And then as they're drying, you can just go in and kind of straighten them and move them where you want them. And once they're dry, they stay better. And then, because we haven't bought any charms or anything, let's put a little heart on the bottom. So I'm just going to take a piece of our pink paper here, and I'm just going to cut a heart out of it. And I want this heart to not be like a whole inch big. I want it to be kind of small because it's going to kind of be our charm at the bottom. So we're just going to cut this little heart like that. But don't forget, that's not garbage because we'll use that. Not today, but we'll use it. And so then what I'm going to do is I want 3 of them. We did 5 for these, and we're going to do 3 for our hearts. So I'm just going to take 2 more pieces of paper, stick them together nice and tight. You can do them one at a time. Your hearts will be more exact that way. But we're going to go ahead and do it this way. I'm just going to put that little heart right back on there. You can draw around it if you want to. And I'm just going to I'm just going to cut around it. I was going to say basically trace it with your scissors. Just hold it in the same spot, and there we go. So now we have 3 little hearts. And we're going to take those hearts, and instead of doing 5, we're going to put them together. And we're just going to do 3. You could do just 2 also, and just have a flat heart at the bottom. I'm going to put a little bit more on there. I was way off. There we go. You just don't want it to be too far off since it's our little charm at the bottom. That one I want to be lined up a little better. So got that sticking to us. Oops, I want our folds together. And just like the others, just make sure you line up your fold. Like that. And then if they're not lining up well enough, you don't like the way that they look, just go ahead and go in and give them a little trim. And then keep your fingers crossed that they're going to separate. Hopefully we didn't glue all of them together. Okay, one there, and there should be one here. There we go. And those are our folds. So I'm going to take our folds. I'm going to cut off just a little bit of this fray here. I want to put the heart on here on the thread, but I don't want the thread to stick out the bottom. And you could have the thread stick out the bottom long enough to put a bead on or something. But since I don't want to do that, I'm just going to put my thread about halfway down the heart. And then give the heart a pinch. Now you do want to, where's my little wire needle here? I'm going to give that a push, like to center, because you want that to be where your folds come together. You want it to be at the center of your heart, pretty much. So there we go. And we only did 3. So now our heart is just 3. So, and then I'll show you the little, a different way that you can make it look too. So we've got these, and we'll make them nice and straight. And they would look like this. With our little heart at the bottom. But if you want something a little different, we can make them look like that, which I also think is really quite cute. So, and if you put it like in a window or something where the wind is coming through, I think that those little curlicues would kind of catch the wind a little bit better. So that's what we're going to do, which it's best to do it while they're still damp. And you just take one of your skewers or anything that you have, and I do them all the same way. Just grab it at the point and give it a bit of a roll and move on to the next one. Grab it at the point, give it a bit of a roll, and how much you want to roll them is totally up to you. You can make them super tight, you can make them super loose or kind of medium. And the only thing is that you, well, and that's not even really a rule. I was going to say you kind of want to make them straight. But if you wanted, you could make them more of an angle. Again, just grab the point. Give it a bit of a roll. So there's 3. And again, it's easier to do it while it's damp. And then also, when the glue dries, it's going to help hold that in place. The way that you rolled it. And if you forget to do it or you want to do it afterwards, you can still do it. And so there's what that one looks like. Well, you can see it now. We rolled those ones this way, so let's try doing this one the opposite way and see how that looks. I have actually not done this before. That one that I just showed you was the first one I ever did. I don't even know what made me, I was just looking at it and I thought, hey, I was working on some other things on my table, and the skewer was sitting there, and it was there to roll paper, and so maybe that's what made me think of it, but I thought that might be cute, so I tried it on that one. I didn't want to try it on my original long one because I really liked that one, and I thought if I don't like the way it looks, I didn't want to mess it up. So I just made one and tried it, and I really liked it. So now we'll try going like opposite ways and see what it looks like. Since I haven't tried it before, I'm not really sure. I keep losing my point on this one. Want that one to be a little tighter. And spread them back out. Okay. So now, it's hard to see, it's hard to show it. But now they're going opposite ways. I think that looks really cute. So I'm going to do the last one this way, the way that I did the first one. So you can just do them however you want to, or you can do them or you cannot do them. You know, roll them or don't roll them. There's so many different things that you could do. And they'd be cute hanging from a package if you're giving someone a gift. They're just fun. And there we go. And so that is what that one looks like. And actually, I think that that's a lot cuter than the one that's just straight, which is how I've always done it. Just kind of adjusting them a little bit. There we go. So we've got that one. And it's so hard to show things that are supposed to dangle. It's really hard to show them flat or with the camera. But I think that those are really cute. And so you can do them any which way that you want to. Just make this one a little single one all by itself. You know what? That's really cute. That would make a really cute ornament just all by itself. A Christmas ornament. Or just a dangle. So there we go. That's how easy today's was and fun. And if you cut a whole bunch of squares, you'll have plenty to do other things with too. So thank you very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.